Good morning everyone, and thank you for giving your time to be here today. We assume that you're familiar with EverythingDiSC and want to know more about this latest addition to the range. To ensure you get the most out of this session, our plan is to walk you through the features of MyEverythingDiSC while highlighting the benefits for both DISC practitioners and end users. We've allowed some time at the end for Q&A, so if you have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll endeavour to cover as many as possible. As always, we'll follow up this session with a recording of the presentation together with some how-to files. Maybe the first thing you'll notice on this slide is the word beta, so I'd like to explain briefly why. MyEverythingDiSC began life as a response to user feedback and market trends. This is already the second version of Wiley's investment in a mobile-friendly app, and we're confident that it'll eventually become a fully fledged addition to the EverythingDiSC range. It is, however, still in the test phase, so you should be aware that the final launched version may be different. Most of the changes are likely to be technological, for instance ensuring it can work over multiple platforms, but as Wiley gets feedback, there may also be some content and design changes. So now it's time for me to hand you over to our presenter, Penny Reid.
Thank you, James, and welcome everyone. So, what is MyEverythingDiSC? For years, trainers, coaches and facilitators, not to mention those who commission training within organisations, have struggled with the concept of making learning stick and how to put DISC theory to work. I think most of us know that getting learners to buy into any concept is the first step to getting them to own the outcome. Because if they do that, they'll acquire or develop the habit of lifelong learning. Making EverythingDiSC second nature in our day-to-day relationships requires us to maintain the momentum beyond a training or a coaching event. And there's plenty of research to show that adults in particular learn better when they're enjoying themselves. Last but not least, the growth of accessible technology makes it possible for us to provide platforms that are in the control of the learner and at the same time easy for the publisher to keep up to date. So, when you're trying to say what MyEverythingDiSC is, here's what's known in the US as the elevator pitch. MyEverythingDiSC is an exclusive and personalized portal, a personalized learning experience that allows people to gain deeper insights about DISC and the people they know, anytime from any device. What this slide doesn't point out is that MyEverythingDiSC is a free addition to any EverythingDiSC report, so the financial cost to you or your clients is zero. How you choose to position this will become clearer as we go through this webcast. Now, you might be concerned that giving access in this way somehow removes you from the process. I'd suggest that the opposite is true. MyEverythingDiSC gives you even more opportunities to stay in touch with your client. You can set your system to add MyEverythingDiSC.com options globally to all your respondents, or to add it at the same time as issuing an access code to an individual respondent, or to offer it as a follow-up after the respondent has received his or her first or any other EverythingDiSC report. So straight away, those of you with clients who've already completed EverythingDiSC profiles have a logical opportunity to get back in touch. I think the easiest way to understand what's being offered is to walk through the process. So in this example, Cara is about to experience MyEverythingDiSC for the first time. Cara has completed an EverythingDiSC profile and seen her report. In this case, the system invitation to set up a MyEverythingDiSC account. You only have to do this once, regardless of the number of profiles you complete. As with all invitations sent out from Epic, you can customize the message and save it to your library. The text in grey here, if you can see, is the standard, but you can top it and tail it with your information, your reference to a program or event, and your contact details. So back to Kari. All she has to do, click on the link, and this screen will appear. This can be done from any device with access to the internet. You can see it's a straightforward setup process with the usual requirement for email and password. By the way, should the account holder change email address, for example, because of moving on to another organisation, he or she can change the contact email address in the MyEverythingDiSC account at any time. So then the home page appears. And because of the direct link from the original EverythingDiSC access code email, the report is automatically in the account. If it isn't, you simply pull it in. Kari now has the option of which menu to select. In this example of the home page, she sees her DISC style and the map with the dot. By the way, for someone like me who's taken several profiles over the years, you can choose which you want to be the primary report. More about that later. So back to Kari, the menu items across the top are specific to her or to any respondent, and they are my style, my reports, my customers, and my comparisons. If Kari decides to learn more about DISC in general rather than her own style preferences, the choices at the foot of this page are Explore DISC, which takes you to the model, the segments, the dot, and explanatory podcasts about each of these styles. There's the DISC timeline that tells you about the evolution of DISC and the theory behind DISC. And the fourth option, that's not visible on this screen grab, is the latest edition, a short explanatory video about MyEverythingDiSC. As you'll realise, this will appeal to some behavioural styles more than others. But one way of using this Explore facility is when you want your clients to refresh their knowledge before attending a training event, a workshop or a coaching session. And in this age of maximising the time you have available face-to-face with your clients, this makes MyEverythingDiSC an excellent tool for pre-work. If you click on the My Style option, you're taken to the My Style page, where you can explore your DISC map to show how your style impacts your work preferences. There are 3 areas, each of which allows you to dive deeper into those preferences which are your strongest and those which are less so. You have My Interaction, this is the one that's on the screen. There's also My Environment and My Communication. In this section, there's a summary of the implications of the preference, including the effort meter, which visually indicates what's involved for you to behave in this way. This provides reinforcement of the idea of behavioural choice and the energy required to use different behaviours to suit a situation or a desired outcome. The fourth option, how aligned are you to your EverythingDiSC style? This is the result of the adaptive testing process that is included in all EverythingDiSC questionnaires and which up until now has only been available through EPIC as the supplement for facilitators. It provides a summary of responses that are consistent with your DISC preferences and those which are not consistent. So this is the not consistent and these are the ones that are consistent. Now the ones that are inconsistent may make sense to the individual as being relevant in some circumstances and relate, for those of you who are familiar with the EverythingDiSC report, to the hatching that sometimes appears on some maps. For example, people with strong eye preferences are not always concerned with detail. That's normally associated with C. However, many people with the eye preference may show this behaviour when they want to present the best possible face to an influential colleague or in a high-profile environment. If Kari was intrigued by the My Style overview, she can go to My Reports to view or download the full report. Of course, she may have already seen the report, but MyEverythingDiSC means that if she's not in the office, she can access all of her reports wherever she is and even email it to herself if she wants to print a hard copy. Now, as with any system of this sort, there's an option to set up your preferences in My Account for how you want to be seen. For example, it's entirely optional to include a photo, but as the Epic universe grows, you may want to distinguish yourself from other people with the same name, or just make it easier for people to identify you. This becomes an important issue as you start to use the comparison reports feature. Now, one of the easiest ways is to let the system access your LinkedIn account and use the photo from your LinkedIn profile. Alternatively, you can browse your own files and upload a photo of your choice. You also have the option to leave it blank. Earlier, I mentioned that some of us have completed several MyEverythingDiSC profiles and have even repeated specific profiles over the years as our circumstances have changed. So you can also use this menu to select the primary report that you want the system to use for comparison and group reports. You can also choose how to receive system notifications and determine your privacy level. MyEverythingDiSC uses what Wiley has termed an open universe. This means that search results on MyEverythingDiSC.com will encompass all MyEverythingDiSC accounts, specifically those that have been given access to My Comparisons and where the account holder has pulled in their profiles to their accounts and has marked him or herself as searchable. Now, the open universe of MyEverythingDiSC does not include everyone who has ever completed a DISC profile. People who have completed a profile need to create a MyEverythingDiSC.com account in order to become part of the open universe. The next slide introduces customer interaction maps that are available to anyone who's completed an MyEverythingDiSC sales report. These are very useful for people in sales and customer service. They're free to create and use at any time. There are two simple steps to the process. Choose your customer, so here's the create a new map. Choose your customer, give them a name and a gender so that the report can make reference correctly, and then answer two questions based on your observation or perception of their behavioural style. Now, all experienced DISC practitioners will recognise the choices as relating to the basic axes, in this case on the example here, pace and assertiveness. This is one axis, the north-south axis, and then the east-west axis, which will be task and relationships. The resulting report offers a one-page overview of the customer, including 3 suggested strategies for interaction based on comparison of your behavioural style and your perception of your customer. And all the reports are stored in MyEverythingDiSC until you delete them. And now, one of the features that offers so many opportunities to apply DISC in the real world, comparisons. As I mentioned at the beginning, one of the most powerful aspects of MyEverythingDiSC is the ability of the account holder to create reports that compare his or her behavioural preferences with those of someone else who has completed an MyEverythingDiSC report and who has created a MyEverythingDiSC.com account. Now remember, you'll need to have given access to My Comparisons and that the account holder has marked him or herself as searchable. Working our way through this process highlights that the comparison reports require positive opt-in. So if you are a consultant, a coach or a trainer, you should use your influence to positively recommend this. If the respondent wants to use the function, there are two steps. Search for people by name in the EPIC universe and send them an invitation to share comparison reports. If you're concerned about data privacy, don't be. Everyone has the choice as to whether to make their name known in the EPIC universe, and even if they do, they still have the choice as to whether or not to accept the invitation to compare. And no information other than your name is accessible at this stage. Remember also that using this function results in two reports. Person A compared with person B and person B compared with person A. This is particularly useful for helping each party see which behaviours to stretch for a mutually beneficial outcome. I think it's worth pointing out that comparison reports generated within EPIC rather than via MyEverythingDiSC do not require agreement, although I always recommend that these are only produced for specific and agreed reasons. You can check in at any time on My Updates to see who has accepted your invitations, and in the My Account menu you can set up your preferences, as I said before, for the system to notify you when your invitations have been accepted. So for Kari, once she accepts an invite, or when someone accepts her invite to compare, they appear in her My One-to-One comparisons. And then Kylie can click on the person's name to see his or her DISC style, view the map that's shown on this slide, and the views or downloads her version of the comparison. Now, by way of reassurance, this process does not give Kari access to Marcus's full EverythingDiSC report. This is still a choice for any individual, but not within MyEverythingDiSC. You'd have to share the PDF of your EverythingDiSC report. So in this example of the view one-to-one, Kari sees her comparison with Marcus. You can just about see the two dots here. And she can choose any of these four categories, these tip categories, to learn more about working with him. Building relationships, getting buy-in, giving and receiving feedback, and managing tension. After choosing a topic, Kari sees herself and Marcus on a continuum, along with practical tips. If I were to make one recommendation about how to use MyEverythingDiSC as both a business enhancer and an effective exemplar, it is that all coaches should create one-to-one comparisons with their coachees. Be true to yourself with your own profile report and demonstrate how such sharing can create open and effective relationships. The payback is a tool that is a heads up on your coachee's likely response to your coaching and something that can be constantly referred to as you develop your coaching style. The next feature is a major addition to this latest version of MyEverythingDiSC, the option to create a group map of group comparisons, which is otherwise only available in EPIC as part of a chargeable report. I think this is particularly useful for groups that work together occasionally or for a special project, and where you've had little or no choice in whom you have to work with. You or your employer may not want to go to the full expense of the standard EPIC group reports, but want something a little more than the two-person comparison report. So again, there are two steps: opening up the My Group Comparisons option and selecting up to 9 people from the EPIC universe and saving the group with a group name in your My Group Comparisons folder. The output is relatively simple but visually impactful. By placing the dots of each of the people in the group on a single map, Kari can see the clusters and the spread of disc styles in the group and pinpoint those who may give her the greatest challenge or be her greatest allies. She can then dive deeper in the same way as for the two-person comparison reports under the 4 tip categories. Building relationships, getting buy-in, giving and receiving feedback, managing tension. So for example, Kari sees in this example where she and her teammate Laurie land on the various continua, and she can toggle between group members and tips. As you can see, this is the same data as is provided in the one-to-one comparison reports. From this walkthrough, you may already be thinking about the viewing options that people have in their MyEverythingDiSC.com account and the variety of ways they can sequence their access. I hope you can also see how your guidance will still be relevant even with the ownership being firmly in the hands of the respondent. So when Kari is ready to know a little bit more about Everything Disc, she may choose the Learn About Disc option that's full of learning tools, as I commented earlier, and they can be accessed as and when she has a need or the energy. And of course, depending on your behavioural style, you may use it to prepare in advance of a situation or right at the last minute. Knowing that it'll be handy on the go, you can add MyEverythingDiSC to your phone or your tablet home screen. MyEverythingDiSC enables anyone to put disc learning into daily practice. James said at the beginning that MyEverythingDiSC is still in beta testing, and all users are currently being offered invited to offer feedback. This is entirely optional, but it's another amazing way to harness technology for a better final product. Also, please note that as the EPIC account holder, your own company details will be displayed beneath the menu strip here and at the foot of each page, so that respondents know how to contact you if they want to do more or simply to ask questions. So, James, do we have any questions?
Yes, Penny, we do. Right. First question, what happens if someone who's heard about MyEverythingDiSC.com and tries to go there and set up an account for themselves?
If somebody sort of accidentally lands on MyEverythingDiSC.com, they will see the home screen, but it will ask them to contact their original supplier to be given access to the full facilities. Perfectly straightforward. We would applaud their curiosity, and again, it gives you the opportunity to get in touch with people.
Thank you. Can you take MyEverythingDiSC from job to job?
As I said, because you can modify the primary email account address that MyEverythingDiSC.com is based on, if you leave one organisation, end up with a different email address, that's all you have to do. And then you can keep importing your reports as you get them added.
Thank you. Can you opt out of MyEverythingDiSC completely?
Yes, indeed. I hope I explained that earlier. Yes, you have absolutely the choice. You do not have to make yourself searchable. You do not have to use it. That's from the point of view of the learner. I think from the point of view of those of us who are in the supply situation, then we really do need to encourage people, if we're going to satisfy those points, those objectives I made right at the beginning of the session, which is we really do need to give ownership to learners. So if somebody is rejecting that idea, I think it really does fall to the facilitator or the coach to explore in a little bit more depth. Of course, I would never say impose it, because that's not going to be the right sort of ownership.
Is it possible to use MyEverythingDiSC with other DISC products?
Any DISC profile that you take, an EverythingDiSC profile, so that is EverythingDiSC Workplace, EverythingDiSC Sales, Management, EverythingDiSC Work of Leaders, and EverythingDiSC 363 for Leaders. Any one of those reports can be brought into your MyEverythingDiSC.com account. I have no doubt that more will come along as Wiley gradually develop this. Anything that gets added to the MyEverythingDiSC, to the EverythingDiSC range.
Thank you. Can anybody who's completed an EverythingDiSC profile see my profile if I've not accepted a request from them?
That's an absolute no. Again, you have to accept. It's a positive opt-in experience. The only way that somebody could see this, as I explained earlier, outside MyEverythingDiSC is via the main EPIC system, where the EPIC administrator has made it available, but not within MyEverythingDiSC. That is entirely at the behest of the account holder.
Great. In the team option, does it identify potential challenges within the team as a whole, or just one-to-one comparisons?
Essentially, it is in this MyEverythingDiSC, it is the one-to-one comparison. So it's the interpersonal relationships of the individuals in the team. For the greater depth of, to be able to explore in greater depth the relationships of the whole team with one another, you would then have to go back into EPIC and pull out one of the, either the group culture report or the facilitator group report. But the option is there. You can access more information, just not through MyEverythingDiSC.com at this stage. However, if the person who answered that question, I would very strongly recommend go in, set up your account, and give this feedback to Wiley. The more they get feedback from the market, the more likely they are to consider the next developments.
Great. And last question, can I use MyEverythingDiSC for recruiting purposes?
I think in a word I would say probably no. I hope with what I've explained so far, remember you would have to give access to MyEverythingDiSC.com to an individual who you may have used, you may have given them the EverythingDiSC profile as part of the recruitment process, but I question whether you would really want them to have access to start making comparisons and so on. However, if you used it during the recruitment process and this person eventually takes up employment with you, then yes, obviously at that point you would want to give them access to MyEverythingDiSC.com and get them integrated into the way your company, your organisation uses the full set of, the full facilities and power of EverythingDiSC.
And that's it for the questions.
Lovely, good. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you who asked the questions. Thank you for moderating it, James. And for those of you who have joined us today, I really hope you've taken away lots of ideas. At the very least, I hope you will try it out for yourself and your immediate colleagues. I believe it's much more persuasive for your clients if you share how you've made it work in your business. As for the next steps, we don't want to deluge you with information, but we will make available a recording of this webcast like we've done for previous sessions, and we will send you a link to the EPIC sub-account setup information and some sample reports if you haven't already seen these. And if you'd like us to add the MyEverythingDiSC.com function to your existing EPIC account, or to set up an EPIC account if you don't already have one, please contact Jan or me as soon as you like.